Welcome everybody. I'm Jaynie Morris, founder and creator of Fun at BoomerBabesLife, our global community for women over 50. And what's our number one mission? All we want to do is help encourage and inspire the voices of women to get that seat on the table so that we can make a difference, so that we can actually contribute to change. And that's what we're all about. I'm really excited. This is our next Sheroes Unlimited behind the book interview. And as you know, as you've seen with our first one, our launch that we had a week ago, what we're trying to do here is we're looking for books, because everybody's reading and e-booking and audio booking as well. We're looking for the books that can contribute and make a difference for us. You know, all different personal development styles, also interesting autobiographies and different stories, and also fiction stories that all have a message. My guest today is beaming in, I'll say, all the way from New Jersey with the magic of being able to utilize technology. And I'm really excited because we dig a little deeper. We get the stories behind the book of the authors. And this amazing woman, she was actually our cover story for a recent BoomerBabesLife Magazine. If you missed that one, why? Jump on our website, make sure that you get that copy. You can still get those back copies, so get that copy and you can get a little bit more on my amazing guest. But Susan Korwin is from New Jersey. Susan,
well, I'm actually from New York, but I live.
Well, thank you for that.
You know, when you're born and raised in New York, you never want to be called anything but a New Yorker, even if you don't live there.
Okay.
I'm just teasing. I'm just teasing you.
We're forgetting Susan Korwin's from New York, the number one place where we all want to go.
I'm glad I'm not there now, though, I have to say.
Susan is the author of this fantastic book. This book is The Simple Strides Towards Positive Change. And Susan gives us the lessons from life coaching. But on top of that, she is the mother of two amazing sons. Three. I'm the mother of two amazing sons. Do you know what? You know, this time travel that we're doing at the moment is crazy.
I know.
She's also the life partner and wife of the fabulous Robert Korwin, all the way from New York. Susan Korwin, thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so honored to be here.
It's now, you just mentioned a moment ago that, yeah, you don't really want to be in New York at the moment. Before we get started here, how are your family and yourself with everything that's going on over there at the moment?
We're doing well. I mean, the only, you know, of course, things are very tough. My husband is a dentist. He hasn't been able to practice. He just went back. The governor said they could now do elective procedures, but he takes amazing precautions, safety precautions. For me, nothing's really changed that much because I usually work, you know, I do phone consults or Zoom or things like that. So it didn't affect me that much. But it's very bizarre. The whole thing is very bizarre because the world is just, you know, every time I go out and I see everybody going into the grocery with masks on, and it's just surreal. It seems like everything is just, we're living in like a parallel universe. So, but as I said before in my interview in your magazine, there's been pandemics before and this too shall pass. It's just, we didn't expect this in our lifetime, you know.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, you know, we're muddling through. We take walks. The weather, you know, when the weather is nice, we go out, and it's you know, that helps a lot.
Yeah, it certainly does. Susan, you were recently named one of 20 most inspiring people in New York. Now, how did it feel when that came along, when you were told that?
I really had no idea. I got an email saying that we're having a gala and you're one of the honorees of, you know, the other people. And I said, well, what is this for? And it turned out it was some company that accumulates votes that people send in on people that have inspired them. And I was just floored because I never really expected it. And when they had it was, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't really a dinner. It was just a big, it was just a gala.
Yeah.
And I met all the other people that were named it was the top 10. And I was just inspired by all of them because some of them were fashion designers, some of them were people who just, help the homeless, feed the homeless. So it was a very big honor. So, but that was back in 2011, so it was a while ago.
Oh,
but to me, it's still recent.
well, I'll have to speak to my editor-in-chief, Astra, who you know, because she said that was a recent.
I do say that because in my bio, and it says recently, but because the book was published in 2011.
Well, Susan, I know for those who are watching us and listening to us today, a lot of them have been following you for some time. I've certainly been inspired from afar, as you know, for quite some time as well.
Well, the feeling is mutual.
Thank you so much. I'm curious. You started out, in a career of fashion and media. Fashion certainly. Following you, fashion is one of your passions, right?
Right.
You are amazing in that. How did that start creating the fabric of your career in your life?
Well, it's funny because I majored in psychology in college, and when I graduated, I said to my parents, I don't want to do this. I don't want to go to school anymore. I don't want to take this any further. I really wanted to work in like a glamorous profession. I didn't think psychology was glamorous. So my father said to me, well, you have no skills to work in the business world. Oh, because I wanted to go out and work in the business world, for like glamorous companies. So he said, you have to have skills. You don't have to, at that time it was before computers. So I had to have typing skills. And even that's why I'm so happy, because I'm a great typist and you need that with computers too. But my father said, why don't you go to a business school? So for a year, I went to a business school in the middle of Manhattan. And it was the best thing I ever did because it was a very prestigious school. And when I finished that program, every company was saying, oh, you went there? That's like the creme de la creme. So my first job was working for Revlon, which was in the heart of Manhattan, on 59th, right by the Plaza Hotel. I worked on the floor with all the models and all the, and the Charles Refson, who was the head of Revlon. Make a long story short, that's when I always loved fashion, but I really was, into the whole city vibe of, fashion and this. And then my next job, when I left that job because my boss had left and I didn't like the new boss that I had after that. So I went to a job at an advertising agency. And little by little, that advertising agency worked with fashion magazines. So everything evolved sort of into fashion. And then, I really didn't do anything with it. I just liked to dress up, and I was just, I was a great shopper. That was my passion. My father, with his credit cards, so, but anyway, so that was that. And then, of course, then I met my husband to be, and we had 3 sons, and I decided to be a stay-at-home mom because I thought that's, if I could do that, be with my kids, that's the most important thing. But I was, living in the suburbs. Most women are like soccer moms. I don't know if that expression is in Australia, but
it is.
Everybody in the area wears sweats and, and sneakers. I don't know if you call them sneakers where you are.
Yeah, we do.
I was always the one that I would bring my kids to school, and I'd be dressed up, with like dresses and, and everybody would say, where are you going? And I'd be, I'm not going anywhere. I'm just doing this for myself. It makes me happy. So I would just constantly, this was my thing. And people would always ask me, where did you get this? How do you stay thin? What do you do? And when my kids were older, that's when I decided, I'm going to do more than just, be a stay-at-home mom waiting for my kids to come home from school. So I decided to be a personal shopper. So I did that for a while. And when I did that, I noticed that people would put themselves down constantly. No matter what they saw in the mirror, they hated. So, you know, and it never was, it used to boggle the mind because it was not, there was no fact to it. They, you know, I'd have these girls that were 90 pounds that would say, I look fat. Then they look at themselves in the mirror. So I then decided that, you know, it's like the house. You can have a beautiful house, but if the inside doesn't have plumbing or electricity, it's going to fall apart. So I said, you know what, I'm going to do, I had the psychology background. So I said, you know what, I could do both. I could work with people. I could help them with their self-esteem and motivation, but plus I could help them if they need stuff, you know, the other end also. So that's when I decided to become a life coach, because I didn't want to go back to school and get a PhD and all that. I just didn't want to. And so I ended up taking a course for life coaching, which I really didn't need because I already had all the basic intuition that I needed. But to make myself, you know, have, so people wouldn't say, well, what kind of
the credentials.
It's late.
Yeah.
Well,
the credit, the qualification, the
credibility. Gave me the credibility. So, so that was that. So that's how it all began. And it was about 2009, I think, that I got an invitation from a cousin in Florida to join Facebook. And I said, okay. And I remember, and I said, what is Facebook? I just knew that my youngest son was on it. He was in high school at the time. And I said, Devin, how do I do this? How do I get on Facebook? He said, don't go on Facebook. It's a cesspool. You don't want to go on Facebook. It's for kids. Why are you doing this? And I said, Devin, I'm not going to use it. I just being polite. She sent me an invitation. Anyway, P.S. I ended up going on Facebook little by little. People would send me friend requests. I don't know how it evolved, but I started writing on Facebook daily quotes, just what if I would wake up in the morning and feel a certain way, I said, let me write about the way I'm feeling. And it would be amazing that people immediately would come on and say, how did you know this is what I'm feeling? I can't believe you made my day because I thought there was something wrong with me. And I would say, no, I feel the same thing. So people say, you don't realize how much you're touching me. You're really affecting, you know, just by your words. So I started this fan page to just do just that every day. And I just amassed a whole slew of, of different articles and posts. And people would say to me, why don't you write a book? You have to write a book. You have to write a book. And I would say, well, I could write little blurbs, but I can't really sit down and write a whole book, you know. So I had an idea to just gather everything I'd ever written, because I had written for magazines, I wrote the Facebook posts, and I got an editor to put everything into categories like self-esteem, style, perfectionism, and she basically took everything I wrote and just put it in chapter form. And that was how that's how it evolved. Because, you know, I don't think I would have ever done it if I didn't get on Facebook.
That really gives a deeper insight for me as a follower and as a friend from afar of you as well. With this book, this fabulous book, what was your hope then? Once your editor put all of that together and you had it ready to go, what was your personal hope for this book, Susan?
Well, my personal hope for the book was that since people were saying how much it helped them on a daily basis, I was hoping to get to a broader audience, you know, maybe people that are not on Facebook who need this inspiration. I find inspiration for myself, you know. I find it from Joel Osteen, but I don't know if you know of him.
No.
Well,
no.
We don't even have to get into it, but he just says positive things, he's on TV, he's on, he has his podcasts also.
Yes.
And he really inspired me. And I said, if I could do a similar thing that he does, then that's amazing, because this is what the world needs. You know, people are so anxious and so stressed, and this is before the pandemic. I mean, you know, it's not easy. Life is not an easy road, you know, and and if you can find inspiration or somebody that says something that may hit you in the right way that, you know, will change your day, it's worth it.
And I think that that's one of the great things about your book, Susan, is that as you go through each chapter, there are little messages that touch the reader in a different way in order to help them adapt to change.
Right.
And in a positive way. And you're right. Yes. I mean, you wrote this book long before COVID was even. I mean, who would have?
Nobody even. I mean, in our wildest dreams, we would never have thought of it.
No. And I think that that's one of the parts, one of the magical parts of this book, but also the inspiration behind what we see in everything you've just described about, and I encourage our listeners and our viewers, our audience, you know, to make sure you'll see all of the links and everything for that Susan has as far as social media is concerned. If you're not following her, you've got to start following her, because everything that she's already shared with us now that she does on a daily basis, trust me, she does it on a daily basis. And you do. And you know, when you mentioned before that you had people starting to say, how did you know this was how I was feeling today? It's true, because so many times that I've, you know, switched on the computer or my phone in the morning, and up pops Susan from what she's been doing the day before. And it's you have a sixth sense there, Susan.
I don't know. Sometimes, sometimes I think that it's a little scary, but yeah. I wish I had the sixth sense to know the lottery numbers and win.
Yeah, well, now that'd be good. Now
that would be a best-selling book, right?
Now, speaking of another best-selling book, is there another book in the pipeline? Are you working on any other books?
Everybody keeps asking me that. Are you going to write another book? But in all honesty, I really covered mostly everything in this book, and I don't know. I think it would be redundant to write another book on the same exact subject. So I'm thinking about it, but I'm thinking about something maybe in a totally different, you know, I don't know yet. I'm thinking maybe a murder mystery.
Oh, that would.
I don't know, but it's just I just think on this topic, I think it's kind of it would just be more of the same, because how much really could you write about the same, you know, without it becoming a little, you know, it's repetitive.
Yeah. Exactly. Susan, before we let you go, I have to ask you the question that I always ask my guests, and that is, if you had an 8-year-old Susan in front of you right now, what advice would you give her?
Oh boy. Well, you know, I know I don't want to hold you, but you know, my biggest chapter in my book is about how our childhood affects our self-esteem. And my childhood affected my self-esteem for my entire life. To this day, this is a long time ago, but I was bullied like terribly when I was 8 years old. I had short curly hair, freckles, tons of freckles, and the boys used to make fun of me, and they'd say, I don't want to touch her. And I felt so bad about myself. So what I would tell myself now is, do not let a bully who has no power of their own steal your power, because you are beautiful, you are unique. Just because you don't look like anybody else, that's your power. And if somebody does, you know, you're giving too much power to somebody who only feeds off of getting power from somebody else by putting them down. So that would be the most important thing. Don't let anybody steal your power. That's the most important.
That's incredibly powerful. Absolutely. And in your book, Simple Strides to Positive Change, there's a couple of pages in there in your book that really touch on that.
Yes.
strongly. So look, Susan, it's been absolutely fabulous to have you with us here on.
Oh, it was such a pleasure to meet you and to talk to you, and you know, our accents are so, I want your accent. You can have my New York accent.
Wait, I've always wanted to be, it's, you know, just quickly, my mother fell in love in World War II with a guy from New York, and they loved each other desperately, and they were going to get married, and my mother's parents wouldn't let her marry him.
Oh.
And can you imagine? I could have been a New Yorker.
You could have said New York, New York. I cannot picture it. Cannot picture it. I can't get rid of this accent. I try as hard as I can. I cannot get rid of it. But at any rate, it was such a pleasure. I could sit here all day and talk to you. But you enjoy the rest of your day, and I'm ending my day. It's nighttime here, and I thank you for taking the time and, you know, out of your early morning to do this.
No, it's an absolute pleasure. And for everybody, you can get this book by going to susankorwin.com. We'll put those links, as I mentioned before, below this podcast that you're now either listening to or watching. You can also, as I mentioned before, read even more about Susan in our BoomerBabesLife magazine. The magazines, the book links, everything are available on our website. Of course, BoomerBabesLife, all one word, BoomerBabesLife.com. And if you've got any comments or if you've got any questions about Susan or her book, please send them to us. Put the comments below. I know that Susan would love to speak with you as well. But again, Susan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Jaynie, and we'll be in touch on Facebook.
Yeah, looking forward to when COVID settles down, and
I hope so, and maybe you'll come this way, and we'll get to meet. I'll give you a big hug.
The next stop will be sitting down for a nice long lunch with you.
I cannot wait. It's a deal.
Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you, Jaynie.
Korwin.